of awesome. What's up? This is your boy Sagar Marker. Welcome to the channel once again and welcome to a brand new video. Today I am very happy because today we are starting a new segment on this channel. This segment is called In Conversation With. I've spoken about it in detail in the introduction video right up here. You can check it out, but I'll tell you a bit about it. In Conversation With is a segment wherein we talk with people from all walks of life, but there is one condition. They should have defined success in that field. They should be at the epitome of success and should reflect the same. We talk about entrepreneurship, we talk about how to achieve success, and we talk about hard work and many more. Today with us is a very great personality. He is author to 14 books and the 15th one is ready to launch this December. He is a motivational speaker, a renowned management guru. He is a teacher, a philosopher and whatnot. He has been awarded the GIA's London chapter's Global Innovator Award of 2019. He has received prestigious award of Sardar Patel International Award 2018 and whatnot. Today with us we have Mr. Radhakrishnan Pillai.
Hi.
Sir, it's a pleasure to have you on this
Same
show.
here, same here. It's an honor, Sagar, to be part of this show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for being on this show. The whole concept of this is entrepreneurship and motivating people to do something great in life. And you are a person, he is one of the smartest people in this country that at least I know of. And I'd like you to share with the audience what was your journey like. How did you start? I know you lost your job, and that is when he specializes in the field of Chanakya. He has done his research, and most of the books out of the 14 are on the topics of Chanakya and his teachings. So I'd like you to share with the audience his teachings, and first let's start with your journey and how you got into the topic of Chanakya and how you did all that.
Thank you, Sagar, for making me part of this particular show In Conversation. And I'm glad to share my story and probably give some tips on how entrepreneurship and leadership is connected.
Right.
So I've been a Mumbaiker, did everything that everybody does in his life. Studied, did my MBA, tried to work in quite a few companies. And just to correct you, I did not lose my job. The company got shut down.
Oh, right.
Because sometimes losing a job means you're kicked out. That doesn't not the case with me.
You're between jobs, as you say popularly.
Yeah, because what had happened is that I used to work for a very interesting company and a very interesting person. His name is Mark Mascarenhas.
Yeah, right.
If you know about him, he's the person who made Sachin Tendulkar the richest sportsman of his era.
Oh.
So I used to handle one of the divisions, the marketing side of a magazine called as Cricket Talk.
Oh, right.
Unfortunately, Mark lost his life in a car accident and the company had to wind up. So I came from Bangalore back to Mumbai and I was, as you rightly pointed out, in between jobs. Right. And that time actually the change happened, a very positive change. My spiritual guru, Swami Tejo Manager from Chinmaya Mission said, instead of looking out for a job, why don't you think about creating jobs? So that's where the entrepreneur in me was born almost 20 years ago.
Right.
So that's where I started my spiritual tourism company called as Atma Darshan. And to make my company better, I started studying Chanakya.
Right.
Taken more than 30,000 tourists from different parts of the world to see the spiritual India.
Right.
And then I said, okay, why not looking at Indian management model? And I landed up that Chanakya was a great management guru.
He was.
I studied the Arthashastra. I went to Kerala. There is a Chinmaya International Foundation where research on Indology is done. I studied that. Then I came back to Bombay and applied in my life. And today, everything that I'm doing is connected to Chanakya.
Got it, yeah. So, you also have this institute in Mumbai University, talk about that and, how you build that and how does that work and how does it, is helping so many students out there.
Sure.
Yeah,
So quite a few things, there are many things that I do. So I would put all that I do in probably 3 different verticals.
Right.
The first vertical is I'm a writer. So I have written, as you said, 15 books.
Yeah.
So right from corporate Chanakya to Chanakya Niti, that's my journey of 15 books. And many people even doubt whether he actually writes or does he do something back of the curtain that makes somebody else write. It's not true. So I actually write.
Yeah.
Of course, I have editors and publishers who make my writing better.
Yeah.
So that's 15 books as a Radhakrishnan Pillai as a writer. Then of course I run a couple of businesses. I have a company called as Atma Darshan, as I told you. Then I am into consulting and training as well. The speaking, the motivation lectures that I give, had converted me into mentoring and guiding a lot of businessmen. So that's one thing which I do. And third one is the Mumbai University. I did a lot of projects with the University of Mumbai for the last 12 years. I also completed my PhD. In fact, got a gold medal also for my research in some of the competitions that I was sent. But what is interesting is that the university identified me as a talent and actually helped me, or rather asked me to set up an institution. It's called the Chanakya International Institute of Leadership Studies. So we did a 5-year major research project and became an institute, and I'm so glad that we have students coming from all over the world to learn Chanakya and his Arthashastra. In my current batch, I have a student who comes every week from Bangalore. I have a lady who comes every week from UAE, United Arab Emirates. So think about the commitment. So I think somewhere long ago when I started Chanakya, it was a one-man show, probably starting a journey as a person who was inspired by Chanakya. But I'm so thankful, Sagar, that now we are actually inspiring a complete generation. And the academic part of it is actually helping me with the base of Mumbai University and the other institutions. Not only Mumbai University, I visit so many institutions. I'm part of this institution also now. And my biggest success, if I were to call it, is to reach out to youngsters. And I've been so fortunate to actually connect to a lot of college-going kids, school-going kids. That's important. There's a book of mine called Chatur Chanakya.
Yeah, exactly. I've read it. It's great. Yeah.
Absolutely. And very important that I've also got into films. So got into 2 films. One is a management film produced by Shemaru. The second is a full-fledged biopic on Chanakya's life, which has been directed.
Shemaru film is the first ever management film in the world.
Yes, on Chanakya, of course. Yeah. We produced it around almost like 8 years ago. That was not a theoretical release, but it was a movie for the classrooms. So a lot of success from that angle. Now it's a full-fledged biopic where I'm heading the research. So that's Neeraj Pandey's movie Chanakya. So 15 books. Of course, I've done many audiobooks also. Then of course the films.
And the radio show.
So it's like a life full of Chanakya.
Many believe that he is Chanakya reborn himself. He preaches Chanakya. He's reviving Chanakya after 2000 years, as it's rightly said. Sir, I'd like to discuss the format of the college. You do it in a gurukul style. Tell us a bit about that. How you do that? Why it is important in today's world?
Sure. So it so happened that I remember I used to write for Times of India as a columnist. And I used to write every week an article, and there were a lot of people who actually used to read. One day I got an email and I realized it's actually a principal of a college. And that time I was nowhere connected to Mumbai University, and saying that you have written wonderful, so why don't you come to Mumbai University? I said, Mumbai University, Baba, maine aunga teacher ke aage. Once you're getting out of college, you don't want to go back and meet your professor. And I ended up over there, and I remember at Mumbai University, the Department of Philosophy, the head of department at that particular time, Dr. Shubda Joshi, said, I read your columns. And you're doing a wonderful work by giving Chanakya's Arthashastra a modern day interpretation, where probably you are looking at how Chanakya's ideas can be used by business leaders today. I said, wow, thank you, madam, for the respect. And then very formally, informally speaking, and saying, let's do something together. And then I said, I learned it in the Gurukul format, the Arthashastra. I went to Kerala. My teacher did not charge me anything. So why don't we look at that model? He said, yeah, that's fantastic, but university has got its own pattern. There's cost to everything. I said, okay, I'll get sponsors. And it so happened that we actually looked at a 5 years major research project. That's how the university called it. We did quite a few seminars. We had a lot of people coming in. But this 5 years major research project was very interesting, where we actually took a batch of 15 boys and girls, and we taught them the Arthashastra of Kautilya, full 6,000 sutras, and we put them into the political world. So we had 4 batches coming out, almost 50 students, and it was a win-win situation. We were students who were dedicated. The only condition is that they had to stay in Mumbai University. That's the Gurukul model, even if you're from Mumbai. So lodging, boarding, traveling all over India, everything is
free of cost,
for the students. And then of course that was one model, and the university loved it and said, well, now let's make it a proper course. That time it was not a course, it was a certificate program. And we made it a proper course where we actually now started calling it a Masters in Leadership Science, MALS. Of course, it's got charges. Because university says now you have to get a degree. And we formed an institution called the Chanakya International Institute of Leadership Studies. I think one of the greatest thing which I look at this particular journey is that, what we have at the Mumbai University now will go on irrespective of whether I am there or not. So this is the beauty of institutions.
Yeah.
Sometimes, when you're running a coaching class, an XYZ coaching class, the teacher is gone, maybe the closing class is gone.
Right.
But in the university, the biggest beauty is that you will not be there, but the course will keep happening.
Right.
So I'm glad that the institution is now got teachers, students. In fact, my first batch of students are actually become teachers of the second batch.
Wow.
So when you say gurukul model,
Right.
so there was many aspects to it. The first aspect of a gurukul is that it is a knowledge for which the students come. It is a knowledge for which the teachers are there. But what is important of a gurukul? It should be an institution.
Right.
So we are lucky that we have an institution, the Chanakya International Institute of Leadership Studies in the Mumbai University, which is a 162-year-old university, and we are giving actual master's degree certificate. Now we are offering PhD programs. So I think that's Gurukul for me, where the teacher is there, the student is there, and more teachers are getting produced, more students are coming, and I'm glad that we have set a benchmark in the knowledge field.
Truly is remarkable. Sir, your whole career, you have studied about Chanakya, you've written about Chanakya, you have hosted a radio show about Chanakya. So I'd like to ask you about this particular field. I'd like to, I'd like for you to go in detail and tell us what is something, some values and some disciplines out of Chanakya's life that we as people can, adopt. Any person can just adopt it and climb the ladder of success.
That's one question that keeps evolving.
Right.
What can you learn from Chanakya? I also started like that. I'm saying that 1, 2, 3, 4 aspects of Chanakya.
Right.
By the time you learn those 1, 2, 3, 4, you're saying, wow, there is so much to Chanakya.
Right.
So let me learn the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Once you learn 10 things about Chanakya, it evolves.
Right.
But as a beginner, I would say that the 2, 3 things that you can learn from Chanakya definitely is the leadership qualities that he talks about.
Right.
Second is the science of thinking, which is strategy.
Right.
Because you need to be a strategic thinker, and that's what we call as anvikshiki.
Right.
And the third definitely is the game of power.
Right.
Because I'll tell you, Chanakya is connected with all the three, and most important, which people most of the time misunderstand, is his understanding of power.
Right.
And that's where you have to be very careful, because if you look at Chanakya's life, he was a leadership guru. Right. He was a person who was actually trying to create more leaders, like Chandragupta Maurya, who defeated Alexander, dethroned Dhananand, became one of the greatest emperors of India. His grandson Ashok went on to become very big beyond the shores of India. All this because of the guidance of Chanakya. So first thing is, if you look at the life of Chanakya, there are so many things he has done. It's not at all easy to actually dethrone an established kingdom and replace it by somebody new. Right. Think about what Chanakya would have done. It's like, one of the most powerful kingdoms of Magad, and the 9th king of the Nanda dynasty actually being dethroned. It's like, the phase that happened between 1942 to 1947, where actually the Britishers are ruling us and we're dethroning them, and actually the Indians are coming over into power, or what we call Swarajya. But not many people understand what happened in that particular 5 years. We just see, India got freedom. A lot of things happened. There was actually Lord Mountbatten. He came here. There was a Quit India movement that was started. Then there was transfer of power. Parallelly, the Indian Constitution was getting made. Right. Indian Constitution did not happen after independence. Right. It was pre-independence. Yeah. Dr. Rajendra Prasad had a whole team, and they were representation of all the princely states. Actually, we were not one nation.
Right, 200 plus.
We were actually 540 princely states. Yeah. Imagine merging them into one union of India was a challenge by itself. Then, of course, Baba Saheb Ambedkar, who was the chairperson of the drafting committee. Then there was Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel, there was Gandhi ji. These are still the known figures. There was Subhash Chandra Bose at one level. Yeah. So if you look at that period, it's quite interesting. And the more you go into it and say, okay, this is what history was created. Right. Same thing with Chanakya. Imagine an era where he's dethroning a power, and you got Alexander from one side, you got problems from within the country. The 16 kingdoms that existed in India at that particular time were not united themselves. So it's a very phenomenal life to learn strategy, to learn vision, to understand his documentation process. Right. So I think the first part, if you look at Chanakya, is his life itself, and how he create leaders in that particular situation. The second and the most important part, what I always believe, is to understand that Chanakya was a great teacher. So one is the leadership quality that he taught, but the second is basically as a teacher, he always believed in strategic thinking.
Right.
So I always say this, leaders don't fail.
Right.
The strategies fail.
Oh, right. Yeah.
लोग कभी भी हारते नहीं, उनकी सोच हार जाती है. And we need to have leaders who once stand up and say something, others are able to follow him.
Right.
So here is a man or a woman for whom I want to give up my life.
Right.
But that man or the woman or that leader cannot be stupid.
Right.
You can't just announce, okay, chalo jate hain, let's attack, but where?
Right.
So that's where the second part comes in, josh mein hosh mat khona. It's very, very important that we all get inspired, but when we go after 2-3 steps, we realize, we are lost. Chanakya says, have josh, but better have hosh first. So, thinking, planning, strategizing. In fact, I just read in your board right now, I don't want to dream, I want to have a plan.
Right.
I'll repeat that. I don't want to dream, I want to have a
plan.
And that's what Chanakya is all about.
Right.
See, it's okay for your plan to fail rather than having a dream which doesn't have a strategy.
Right.
So it is always important that you actually plan out everything. So I think that's strategic thinking. Now, one of the things about Chanakya which he talks about in detail is Anvikshiki.
Right.
When I started studying Chanakya or Arthashastra, when I used to say Anvikshiki, people said, Anvik, what?
Right.
And then say Anvikshiki. And today I've actually written a book on it called Inside Chanakya's Mind. Anvikshiki and the Art of Thinking. Very popular book.
Right.
And Anvikshiki, Chanakya calls in Arthashastra as Prathama Vidya and Parama Vidya.
Right.
It's the first knowledge of the kings
and the
ultimate knowledge. So it's the beginning and the end and everything in between.
Yeah.
So for me, when I started realizing that we as a generation in India have lost leadership thinking, we have lost strategic thinking. So I think as a generation, our education system actually has become an examination system.
Do you think that is because of colonization or?
To a great extent, yes. And also, I would not blame the Britishers too much now, and they're gone. Come on. I mean, 70 years, we have not set our house in order. I think Japan also was bombarded, right?
You have greatly said in some of your speeches that the Britishers left us and then we became to the USA.
Absolutely. So one of my teachers used to tell that. She used to say, the Britishers left us and we accepted the Americans. We never became Indians.
Right.
So I think that's where my journey is. I think Indians need to understand India not as a history. Of course, as a history, it's important. Not just as a geography, but as a culture, and more important as a country which understood strategic thinking.
Right.
And we had many leaders who actually were great thinkers, visionaries.
True that,
And somewhere in the last 200-300 years, we have lost it. So I think it's very important to understand the second aspect of Chanakya of leadership thinking, strategic thinking.
Right.
And the third and the most important part about Chanakya, which has inspired me, is documentation.
Right.
You may do a lot of things, but if you don't document it, it's gone with you. How many people in this country have done wonderful work, but nobody knows about them. Even their own family members don't know them after a period of time. So I said, if Chanakya was great because he wrote a book called the Arthashastra or the Chanakya Niti.
Right.
Because if we want to know the Chanakya's original thought process, we can go back and refer to those books.
Right, read those,
But I think that's very, very important that we understand Chanakya, maybe rewrite Chanakya. When I say rewrite Chanakya, is not saying that he was wrong, but interpret as relevant to our generation.
Got it. Yeah.
Because every generation requires it to be reinterpreted.
Right.
To reorganize knowledge and upgrade knowledge also.
Right.
So I think we are a very lucky country to have a great culture of documented literature. The Chanakya knew this, that I may be gone, but my knowledge will stay on and on and on. So I think that's why I'm very inspired that, why am I writing books? Because you never know that, these books will inspire people after many generations.
Right.
This year and last year also, to be specific, we celebrated the 150th year of Mahatma Gandhi's birthday.
Yeah, right.
And also very recently Swami Vivekananda's birthday.
Right.
But remember, all these people are documented their work. Swami Vivekananda wrote a lot of letters. Mahatma Gandhi wrote a book, my experience with truth. So if I, as a person who's never seen Mahatma Gandhi or Swami Vivekananda, at least I can read the books and get inspired. Right. Imagine Chanakya, if he had not written the book Chanakya Niti or Arthashastra, what would have happened? He would have lost all the knowledge. So my dear friends and everybody listening over here, I would suggest that please, make it a life commitment to yourself to at least write one book in a lifetime.
Right.
And remember, this one book is not about you, it's about your experience that you'll hand over. to the next generation. I think that inspires me about Chanakya. That inspires me to write more and more, look at new dimensions of Chanakya, be it the art of war, or the art of thinking, or the art of getting rich, or be it Chanakya Niti, Chatur Chanakya, Chanakya in daily life, how to write a book and make it a bestseller.
Right.
So I think I'm enjoying my work thoroughly as a teacher and a student of Chanakya.
Awesome. And that reflects in your work, when we read it, you kind of know that it's coming from a place who enjoys and knows a lot about it. So thank you for the books that you have written. So now I would like to, the whole episode, the whole podcast is about entrepreneurship, and how to promote it in young minds, how to tell the young India to be successful, and you very popularly say that the global power now is changing to India. So I'd like you to, give some advice to all those young entrepreneurs that you're watching. Now there's this whole like culture of startup. Everyone has their own startup, they're working, which is great, I feel. But, I'd like you to, but with great power comes great responsibility, right? So there are people, being suicidal, there are people getting burnt out. So I'd like you to give your advice to specifically to young entrepreneurs, and who want to do something of their own, who want to be successful in life, something out of Chanakya's life or your own advice. He himself heads 2-3 companies, one is his travel company, one is his leadership company, then again he's the director to the CILS in Mumbai University. So, out of all your experiences about entrepreneurship, about leadership, I'd like you to share with the audience, and the young audience especially.
Sure. So first of all, let me tell congratulations to your generation and congratulations to all the upcoming entrepreneurs. You are lucky as a generation because India has come a long way from a country of survival to a country of ideation. I remember in my days, if we got an interview call letter, I'm not even telling you a job, okay? So if we used to generally have a mailbox and actual physical letter that has to come and you've been called for an interview in this particular company. Can you believe that was a matter of celebration?
Right, yeah.
So among maybe 10 unemployed youth, maybe one would actually go back and say, "Arey, mere ko interview call letter aaya." Right. Very good, congratulations. We have been applying, but no replying. Right. So it was like a generation where we never knew apply, but no reply. Right. So imagine if you get an interview call letter, probably you are lucky among 100 people who got one person actually going for an interview. Right. And again, in that one interview, there may be 20-25 people and you'll have one post. So I think it was more a matter of, job mentality was security. But luckily, thanks to our parents who worked very hard, my generation has to work a little bit less than my parents. But I think by the time your generation comes, you don't have to work for survival at least.
Right, yeah.
So initially post-independence, the whole concept was about roti, kapda, makan. And now it's about bijli, sadak, pani. Right. So I think everybody has got roti khane ko. Right. Today the problem is about obesity rather than what to eat. So we're actually malnutrition generation. And if you look at our photographs, everybody's like patla, dubla. Not because it is a fitness freaks, but it was actually because we had nothing to eat. But from that, I still remember milk was rationed. Right. We used to actually go and itna hi milega per family, And then today Amul is producing so much that actually doesn't know whether ice creams bana ke beche ya kya bana ke. So it's a generation where roti is not a problem. Kapda, we have too much kapda. Sometimes they buy it in bulk and some of them we don't even wear. Wear it once and say, acha nahi laga. I mean, come on. We had one dress which went on from first brother to the next brother to the next cousin and saying, wow, I got a new dress for Diwali. New dress for Diwali. Actually, it's my old cousin's dress, but that was a joy. And then Makan, of course, everybody is talking about investments in real estate. Right. So, bijli, sadak, pani, we got at least now electricity. As a nation, we are electrified. Maybe there are a few glitches here and there, but Bombay city, we've seen full electricity. Roti, kapda, makan, bijli hai, sadak hai. Sadak is what we are trying to get straight, good roads.
We have it, but not the best one.
Money, water is another problem. Now, telling back, what I want to bring in is that, this is a generation which can actually think about ideation. Right. We don't have a choice. Right. So, the job mila le lo. Right. Yeah. Today, I am in the board of quite a few companies. I know you may give a job to a youngster, but he or she may not join. Right. And I've seen those many people. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. You decide on the first day. Sometimes in my office, there are youngsters who come in. Right. And first day, they don't come. What happened? I'm giving you a job. No, I'm still thinking about what? So that's something, okay, that's a good way of looking at it, saying that they have an opportunity, but they're not sure. Right. So coming back to the opportunities, it's immense, but sometimes that's a problem.
Right.
Because if you have to choose between 1 or 2 or 3, it's fine. But if you have to choose between 300, you get confused. And that's where I have a problem with startups, which is actually an advantage. The problem is people are ideating so much that they're moving on from one idea to the next idea to the next idea to the next idea, and finally experimenting went nowhere.
Right.
So the old story goes that there's this particular person who was trying to dig a well, and after trying it for so much time, there is no water coming. He goes to a mentor and says, पानी नहीं आ रहा है. मतलब कहाँ पे खोदा? मतलब यहाँ पे भी खोदा, वहाँ पे भी खोदा, वहाँ पे कुआं कहीं पे पानी नहीं आ रहा है. And my dear friends, think carefully, choose one spot, do your research, and then hit one spot and go deep.
Stay focused. Yeah.
Exactly. So the way I look at it, that I think it's important to ideate, but fix up that one area, then give your life to it.
Right.
It's a big commitment, of course.
Right.
So the way I look at it, the startup India is a fantastic thing, and parents are also supporting. And with the digital and technology and literally internet being free, I think you can do so much massive work. But I think the first requirement of a business is not a business idea.
Right. Wow. Okay.
Again, I'm saying something very different. The first thing about business is not a business idea, but a mentor.
Right.
Who will tell you what to do and what not to do.
Right.
And that is what I did in my life. So when I started my business in Atmadarshan, I was not sure. But I went to my guru, Swami Tejomanyan, saying that, is it okay? Very good, start. But then it is not just blessings, okay? He's doing strategically, okay, good, good, good. I kept reporting to him. Even after 20 years, I take guidance from him.
Wow.
In fact, I'll tell you, friends, in between, I even decided to stop my company, shut down my company.
Wow.
Because, I became so busy with from Atmadarshan to the Chanakya space that literally I decided that ho gaya yaar. And I wrote a mail to him, and he was traveling somewhere. He said, wait, you cannot stop this company. And today, actually, I'm looking at investors coming in. Right. In fact, there is a company which we started called Enlightened Games. Not many people know about it. Actually, we have produced games on Chanakya,
right? Yeah,
exactly. Chanakya's Chakravyuh,
right?
And
Chanakya Chakravyuh, right?
Yeah,
there's a YouTube channel by the same name. Yeah.
Exactly. So there's a board game we created 10-12 years back, and they chodo yaar. And suddenly, after 12 years, we actually got an investor who's putting in 40 lakh rupees into it. Okay. And he said, in the second phase, I'm going to invest 1 crore into it. I said, wow. Right. But I was always in my conflicting situation, went back to my mentor, and the mentor said yes or no, and if not, know what to do.
Right.
So I think this is very important. Have an idea, do entrepreneurship, but entrepreneurship minus mentorship is lost game.
Wow. Okay.
And if you have a mentor, even if you're losing the game, the mentor will make sure you win the game.
Right.
So that's why probably I've been trying to help out a lot of young boys and girls and saying that I did. I'll give one specific example. You'll be happy to know this.
Right.
And it's a specific example. Why am I telling you that? There's a young girl. I remember her name is Disha, one of my friend's daughter. Actually, he's a consulting person. So Biren once says, okay, we are doing some consulting work, how to build up a company. And say, that's my daughter. Oh, it's okay, Disha, how are you? So I didn't meet up. We just chatting, and she was doing a final year of engineering. Okay, she had some business idea, and there was one college colleague of hers, and both of them were developing some app. I said, okay. Then he said, okay, what's your business all about? She started speaking a lot of ideas. She said, listen, I want to know your business in numbers. Okay, so what you're telling me is philosophy and the idea. Where is your business plan?
Right.
Where are your numbers? I want to see an Excel sheet. And said, okay, I don't know. I said, prepare it, then I'll guide you. And she was so committed. This actually came back with a kacha Excel sheet, saying that this is the expense, this is the incoming, and so the income side of the kuch nahi hai, abhi business develop ho raha hai, that's fine. But what about the expense side? And you looked at it and saying that you are not taking any money. No, it's my business. That's fine. But your time is getting efforted. Your partner's time is getting, you have to account for it. You may not take it. Oh, instead of putting, what about your dad's office space you're using? That's my dad's office. Exactly. Don't take it for granted. A businessman values time and money in numbers. So you put a cost to it. Maybe you're using a small space, but remember that space in Mumbai is 10,000 rupees a month.
Right.
The workstation, if you go and work, don't they charge you? Even if it's a common workspace. They're looking at it, okay. And after 6 months, she started seriously taking that every moment counts.
Right.
Interestingly, what happened is that the partner, he was also ideating, she was also ideating. He said, chalo, main aur kuch karta hu.
Okay.
And then this girl also says, Disha, I am also planning to, no, now I will not allow you to stop your business. Continue. But my partner is not there. Well, congratulations. Now you're the sole decision maker. But remember one thing, whatever you started on paper, close it properly. Right. Pay him some money. Pay him some money, he never demand. He may not demand, but that's business rules. Right. He worked for your company, right? He helped you in the initial stages.
Right.
So it's your moral responsibility to take the rights of the company legally on paper,
Right.
thank him and give him some money. Because remember that figure I had put in? That your time per month, if you're working somewhere, you would have got at least a small fee, maybe 5,000 rupees a month.
Right.
She actually calculated and gave him some money and he was surprised saying that, नहीं यार मेरे को नहीं चाहिए. नहीं चाहिए की बात नहीं है, मैं अभी business में commit कर रही हूँ. You'd be surprised that the girl went on. Then after some time I started telling, okay, now that the expense, you're developing, where is your income? He started pushing up. She started getting big orders from, a Tata group and Aditya Birla group, and everybody's like, calling her and all those things. And that time she suddenly says, I think I need to go. I think my biggest dream is to go abroad and study and do an MBA. I said, nothing doing. So why? I got it right. Nothing doing. I'm not going to allow you because our business has to mature. You only started. It's 1.5 years. You require a business commitment for minimum 3 years.
Right.
She went back and asked her father and saying that I'm not going to go even if I'm getting in Harvard. So imagine, see how fickle the mind is that you say, okay, I'll go and study. Nothing doing. And believe me, Disha actually did not go and study in Harvard. She actually studied. And after 3 years, the business started zooming. She started getting employees. She's got her own team. I went and asked her, hi Disha, when are you going to Harvard now? Oh, okay. Well, please go now because now you're the business maturity. You've gone through all the cycles. You understand numbers. You understand clients. You require the technicalities. You've developed everything. Now go and study. And she's like, okay. So she started looking and saying, okay, the course that I want to do is actually in LSE, London School of Economics.
Right.
She applied and she comes and tells me, okay, then, this is the particular place. And then I said, congratulations. But you'll be surprised in the history of LSE, of that particular course. Wow. She's the youngest to get appointed. She's 25 now. And all her colleagues are 45 years and above.
Wow.
And Disha comes and tells me, saying that, why they selected me, I also don't know. Then I said, because
you have a portfolio.
You have a portfolio of running a business for 3 years. You started maybe when you're 18 or 19.
Right.
You have built up your portfolio at 21, 22, 23. You actually done a successful business model with numbers.
Right.
And she says, wow. And the best part about that course is it's a 2-year program that she goes for 2-3 weeks, comes back, applies in a business. Then again goes back. Now think about the world standards that Disha will take a company to. She's in India learning world class. And believe me, I remember the discussion she had with me and Biren, her father, having with me and saying that, okay, should we take London School of Economics or ISB or IIM? By that time, she was very clear that education is for the leadership level, business leadership level. I specifically told her, look at the pluses and minuses. Right. I believe that you should look at LSE because of many other reasons. See, ISB is also good, IIM is also good, but they're still Indian. If you want to take a company to world class, okay?
Learn world class.
Learn world class. And let me tell you, she did a further research. Okay, LSE is actually a 200-year-old institute.
Right.
And think about it, Britishers actually ruled the nation. Not only our nation, but many nations across the world using strategies. And actually all the inputs came from LSE strategists. And we will know. So think about it, go to Britain, learn the techniques and come back and apply in our country.
Wow. Yeah.
And she's now here, I just spoke to her yesterday and saying that, I'm going to share. I said, not share, but you teach me now what I don't know about global leadership.
Right.
Coming back short, my dear friends, please work on entrepreneurship. I want each one of you to be job providers.
Right.
But not job seekers. Right. And even if you want to work, it's not wrong, but work with an entrepreneurship mindset.
Right.
But who's your mentor?
Right.
Who's your guide? Because the problem is that if you go to your friends, it's like blind leading the blind.
Right.
He or she is equally confused, so are you. Right. And then after 3 years, you don't know what to do. And that's where exactly depression comes in, suicidal tendencies comes in. Because you're only looking at, failure models. You may have a Steve Jobs as your icon, but the reality is that there is a process of becoming a Steve Jobs. So my dear friends, my whole idea was that please take entrepreneurship as a leadership commitment minimum for 3 years.
Right.
But don't do it alone. Have a guru, have a mentor, have a, I don't know what strategist. Right. And he or she, whoever is a mentor guru, has to be part of the game plan. Right. Sachin Tendulkar may hit sixes and centuries, but there is a Ramakant Achrekar telling him what to do.
Right.
There is a Chandragupta Maurya, but there is a Chanakya behind it. Right. So make sure you have your Chanakya before you actually play the game, the battle of life and the battle of entrepreneurship.